Hello and welcome along to the Panto podcast. This week my guest is pantomime and movie star Craig Garner. We talk about how he got started in the business, the difficulties that being a little person in a large theatre can bring, and his emotional performance at the Palladium last year. So please sit back and enjoy the latest Panto podcast. My guest this week is Craig Garner. Hello, Craig.
Hello, Hayden. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
Very good.
So, pantomime world.
Yes.
What was your first introduction then to pantomime?
Oh, gosh. Feels like a lifetime ago. Well, it was, I guess. So first kind of pantomime experience was Lincoln, my hometown, the Theatre Royal, amazing theatre, was actually Cinderella. So I was doing Cinderella as a school performance. I can't remember what I was playing. I think as a town crier. Hear ye, hear ye, the prince across the street, commanding all the ladies to show a plate of meat. Very risky, I know. So we was doing the show Cinderella as a school performance, and I went to a school for disabled children, and the cast of Cinderella and Theatre Royal came to see us, and that's where I made a lifelong friend in Jodie Jackson, who was actually playing Cinderella at the time. So she then invited me to go to the Theatre Royal, go backstage, and kind of see the spectacle show, and that was my first introduction, and fell in love ever since. And kind of followed her career, went to see some musical theatre that she was doing, the Rocky Horror Show, A Slice of Saturday Night, Great Northern musical, and that's kind of how I got the bug.
And that was that, as
that was that, yes. Gosh, I think I was only about 7 or 8. Yeah.
Did you sing much at home then? And
did I? Perform? Always singing, constantly. Probably drove everybody bonkers. Yeah, always. I was a performer. I think probably being small, I probably felt I had to stand out, so I wasn't overlooked. But I absolutely loved it. I can even remember at primary school actually, just performing all the time. If there was ever doing Morris dancing, I had to be part of the Morris dancing. I was probably only 4 years old, with the bells on my ankles and ribbons and all of that. So yeah, I guess I was destined to do something performance based.
And school, were they very supportive with it?
School was amazing. As I say, so I went to a school for disabled children. I'm not an academic, shall we say, exams absolutely petrify me. I don't do well under that kind of pressure. So kind of towards my GCSE years, 13, 14, things like that, I really did struggle, and my school were amazing. And every year we would do a show, and they could see that was my path, my journey. So they kind of reached out to the local college and said, look, we've got a student, he wants to be an actor, wants to be a performer. Can he split his time between the college and the school? Maybe one day a week, couple of hours here, there. So I started to go to the local college for a year when I was about 16. And as I say, I used to skip school because I didn't want to do the exams and things like that. And I had a form tutor, and he used to come and pick me up from home, take me in so I could do the rehearsals for the show. And I didn't have to do the lessons, but he wanted me to still perform. And then I used to go back home. So they kind of probably did things they shouldn't have done at the time. But he certainly nurtured kind of the talent
and put you on the right path.
Yeah, I think teachers, certainly because it was we had smaller classes. There's only about 10 per class, so you got a lot more one-to-one time and things like that. And throughout all of school, during lunch breaks, I'd go into the hall and I'd be playing the piano, or I'd put a backing track on and I'd be singing Joseph. It's like, oh, Craig's at it again. They're all sat eating lunch and I'm in the hall, belting out a show tune or playing on the piano. So yeah, I think the teachers had a great role to play, really.
What kind of things then would you say influenced you when you were growing up?
Musical theatre. I absolutely love musical theatre. I remember, I think it was my 13th birthday. My mum brought me a disc player, CD portable one, whereas if you any kind of knock, it would jump, so you couldn't actually move with it. But yeah, you certainly couldn't go on a bus with it, that's for sure. And she also brought me a CD. I think it was The Producers, where it's all the musical theatres that come and perform for Andrew Lloyd Webber, and I just listened to it on repeat constantly. Bernadette Peters, Glenn Close, absolutely amazing performers, Judi Dench, Sending the Clowns, things like that. And I just kind of got this passion. Actually, it's not about having the most amazing voice. It's not about, being refined. It's actually about connecting and telling a story. And I think if you can do that and touch people with the words that you're singing or saying, I think that's just magic. It's pure magic.
Anything or anybody that you really kind of admired then?
Oh, Bernadette Peters, without a shadow of a doubt. I love her voice. She's New York, Bronxy, and I just loved her. Absolutely loved her. And Carl Wilkinson, from Les Mis, absolutely amazing. And I had the video as well, VCR, oh my God. And I used to just rewind and play it constantly. And when I used to skive off school, I used to just watch it on repeat constantly. I just couldn't believe that people did that for a living. It's just like, that is living the dream, isn't it? And Bernadette Peters, absolutely adore her. And actually, I got tickets to go and see her at the South Bank Centre, and managed to meet her after the show and things like that. And yeah, she's just an incredibly down-to-earth person, and yeah, so she's one of my inspirations. And actually, non-celebrity Jodie Jackson, who is one of the reasons why I kind of got into this, and she was great advice to me, and kind of told me the do's and the don'ts and the this and the that's. And so we're still good friends at the moment nowadays. And she's fantastic.
Comical performances then, because it sounds like you were a bit of a joker when you were at school.
I guess I didn't, not naturally. No, not naturally. I wouldn't think, I'm going to do this because it's funny, or I just did it. I was just me. And if people found that funny, then that's fine. And I remember when doing my first professional panto. So after I went to college, did musical theatre, BTEC National Diploma, and then I got my first professional panto in Lincoln playing Ugly Sister. I thought, oh my God, this is amazing. First job, I was thinking I'd be one of the 7. And in actual fact, I was a great opportunity to play one of the Ugly Sisters, and that was for Jamie Marcus Productions. And actually, they were my tutors as well. Julie Fox and Jamie Marcus were my tutors at college as well. So I got to do that show, and one of my producer notes was, Craig, keep laughing. And I thought, oh, that's a new one. And when I had that note, I kind of laughed naturally, and I didn't realise, because when you're on the stage with people and you're very comfortable and you find people, things funny, you do corpse a little bit, but you have to be professional, obviously. And I was just corpsing all the time. But when I laugh, the audience laugh. And the producer obviously heard that and thought it's infectious, and we can use that for its money. And my note was, keep laughing, corpse, it doesn't matter. And that's, again, so first professional panto, you learn on the job. Every year you learn something new, and if you're enjoying yourself, the audience are enjoying themselves as well.
You said an Ugly Sister, and you were expecting to be one of the 7. How did the characterisation of your ugly sister kind of dame?
It was quite funny, really. I think a lot comes from the script. You know, I'd never done Dame before, so the script was fantastic. I got to work with a fabulous guy called Ian Wilkes, and he was my other half sister, and we were called Miss Minga and Miss Manta. And I was the dominating one, you know. I was the fierce one. I was the one that controlled everything, you know. And she had to kind of adhere to me, kind of thing. And it kind of develops, you know, over the course of the run, and you learn what works, what doesn't work, you know, with the audience and things like that. But I was quite fierce, I think. You know, I think people think, you know, little person, cute, but actually, you know, I was quite mean. And I think Ugly Sister, you know, is a bit of a baddie. And you want to get the booze, you know, when you're making her tear up a ticket. You know, that's a proper go-to-town moment. And, you know, I think I actually made our poor Cinderella cry to, you know, one of the shows, because I was just so mean and in the moment. It's like, you are not going to that ball, you know, you are going to tear your ticket up. And, yeah, it just kind of develops. And I think, you know, should I get the opportunity to do it again? A lot of the creation comes from the script, and so I don't kind of have a Dame character that I take out. I kind of like to work on it, you know, during the show, and it depends who you're working with, if you're in a partnership, and as I say, yeah, the script as well.
The feedback, though, from you, did they take that on board as well?
What, the producers and the script?
Yes.
It kind of just developed. We were, you know, as performers, you're almost granted free license to kind of, you know, develop your character. And you do get encouragement again from the producers, from the directors. You know, they know what works and what doesn't work as well, because, you know, at that time I think I was only 22, 23. It's relatively new, you know, in performing professionally. So you kind of take their advice as well. You know, they've been in the West End. They know what they're talking about. They know what works, what doesn't work. So, you know, you just have to trust in each other. And I think as long as you have open communication and they allow you to figure things out and you take on board what they say, I think that's fine. There are certain situations where the director has it written in stone and that's how it is and that's how it's going to be, and, you know, like it and lump it kind of situation. You know, it's a bit boring then, isn't it? It's like, okay, it becomes a bit stagnant. You know, you imagine doing 80 odd shows, you know, doing the same thing and not being given license to go off piste a little bit.
Do you enjoy doing that? Would you prefer being set in stone?
No, I think it's great when you can go off piste a little bit. It's kind of, it gives you a sense of a thrill. You know, it's like, oh, where are we going with this? What's going to happen? Whereas if you do the script day in, day out, it's safe, isn't it? You know the plot, you know the story, and you've got a start, a middle, and an end. And I think if you're allowed to infill a little bit as you go along, I think that's great. And with Panto, you can get away with it. And, you know, especially if there are seriously funny moments where things go a little bit wrong, the audience love it. As long as the audience are involved with that, then that's fine. I think quite a few cast members sometimes do jokes that perhaps the audience aren't part of. Then, you know, they're like left kind of thinking, oh, what's going on? But as long as the audience are involved, you know, like if there's a fall on stage or things like that, you know, I've done that before. I've come through the cottage door and, you know, playing one of the seven. I thought, do you know what? I just fancy getting a bit of a laugh. So I'm going to fall over as I come through the door. And I didn't tell any of the other cast, you know, I just did it. And I just fell, you know, proper comedy fall, flat on my face, you know, hit the deck. You know, I was absolutely fine, but I didn't realise that I was going to corpse myself as well. So I ended up corpsing myself. All my cast members were in absolute hysterics. I'm crying with laughter. The audience are, in absolute stitches. And, when you do things like that, you think, yeah, this is a good job, and you can get away with little things like that.
What was it like then being approached to become part of your first 7?
Well, my first 7 actually coincided with a documentary that I did, 7 Dwarfs, for Channel 4. So at the time I was filming Harry Potter, and I got a phone call from the agent to say, Craig, Channel 4 are creating this documentary. It's a bit kind of fly on the wall, and the company, they do one born every minute, and at the time it was the family. So it's quite a new concept of filming, a fixed rig in a house, that kind of scenario. So I thought, nothing ventured, nothing gained. I'll give it a go. And then that coincided with the Panto. And the Panto was in Woking, so I was playing the 7 Dwarfs. So that was kind of my first introduction to the 7 Dwarfs. And then, so prior to actually doing the show in Woking, we had a year of filming for the documentary as well. I did my driving test on the documentary, which they didn't show because I passed. That'd be pretty boring, but if I failed, I'm sure it would have been on there. So yeah, we did kind of a lot of pre-filming, and then we all lived in a house together, which was quite bizarre because I've not really been around little people. My first experience of little people was actually on the Harry Potter set. The first time I ever met a little person, there were 60 of them. So it's quite daunting for me. And actually a good friend of mine now, he's a little person as well. It was a similar situation for him as well. All these, people brought together, and yeah, it's overwhelming for sure. But I've made some great friends, some lifelong friends, and what's nice is I get to work with them, at Christmas time during Panto and events and corporate things. So that was my first introduction to Panto and Woking, and it was a fantastic show as well.
Has it caused many problems being a little person?
Problems. In what kind of sense?
I tell you what, we'll restart that question again. Going for roles then in the acting world, has being a little person caused many problems for you in terms of casting?
So obviously the profession, every job and every casting, they have a casting brief, and things are changing, thankfully, too slowly, but they are changing. So they have a casting brief, and they're very kind of precise, with height, hair colour, eye colour, skin tone, you name it, they have a list, and you have to tick the boxes, which is quite sad because, you look on the streets, everyone is completely different, and they all portray different parts of the real world. There's little people that are accountants, there are little people that are, I don't know, they work in supermarkets, or they're managers of big corporate companies, things like that. So we as little people represent, a wide selection of the community and industries, and I don't think that's portrayed, especially on TV. I know EastEnders, they've had a little person playing a teacher, which I think is great, but I think there needs to be a lot more representation of little people on mainstream TV. I think in theatre as well. I think typecasting is what it is, but I think typecasting should change. I was fortunate enough to have an audition for Aladdin in the West End, so even just to be seen what was a great opportunity, and a sign that hopefully things are changing, and that they're happy to look kind of out of the box, so to speak.
Even you sounded surprised when you were asked to be in the Cinderella as an ugly sister.
Yeah, I mean, when I was training, obviously I knew there was no under 7 dwarves, but naively, when I was training and when I left, I got an agent. And it was an agent that represented, average height people. It wasn't a niche agency. I didn't even know at the time that there was an agency for little people. So I naively thought, I'm never going to play one of the 7. I was like, I don't need to do that. I can do what I like. And then reality kicks in when you leave, college and things like that, and you've got an agent, and then the phone rings and it's, Craig, we've got your commercial. Oh, fantastic. First job. This is great. Who's it for? Well, it's for the Daily Mail. Even better. Fantastic. What's the pay? Oh, it's so amazing. What am I doing? Oh, you're playing a dwarf. I was like, oh, okay. And so it begins. And then you just have to learn to accept it. It's accepting who you are. For many years as a child, I didn't like being called a dwarf. I was a little person. I wasn't a dwarf. And I didn't want to have a label, but now I fully embrace who I am. I accept it. I will happily play one of the 7. That's fine. It's not an issue. But I am capable of playing characters outside of the 7, and I'm capable of doing more within the 7. I think the 7, in lots of productions of Snow White, the 7 dwarves should be featured more. They are in the title of the show, and they are integral to the show. So yeah, I now fully embrace being a dwarf, and I love it.
Excellent. What about then the curiosity? Do you find it more with adults or children?
Curiosity. So curiosity from a child is fantastic because it comes from naivety. So there's no hesitation at all. They
ask the question.
They ask the question. They don't hold back. They don't whisper. They may stare, but that's fine. But they will say, "Oh, mummy, is that a man or is that a boy?" And then the parents' reaction is like, "Shh, don't say that." It's like, no, they're fine. They're asking a question. Just answer the question. Oh, that's a man. He's in the supermarket. He's just going about his business. It's not a problem. But adults, you learn as you go through life that you should. Oh, you can't say that. You can't do that. That's rude. That's It's like, no, come on. We're all grown-ups. Just ask the question. I'm not an alien. I'm not, it's not a big problem. If you want to ask a question, just ask. I'll either answer or I won't. It's not a problem. But I think children are very funny, and children are a lot better at dealing with things like that than adults, that's for sure.
Have you noticed the shift as well since, I would say personally, the Paralympics? Once the Paralympics took place with 2012, the disability and I'm trying to think of my words here, the acceptance of people who have different struggles in life are very much more accepted and talked about more.
Absolutely. And I think things like the programme The Last Leg, absolutely amazing. I love it. Is it Alex Brooker and I can't remember. Josh Widdicombe. Absolutely amazing. And I think as a previous question, we people with disabilities, so not just people with dwarfism, anybody, people in wheelchairs, blind people, we are part of society and we have a voice and we want to be heard. We're entitled to be heard, and we should be accepted and embraced. We contribute to society as much as anybody else. And I think to have that representation on mainstream television is amazing, and I welcome it. It's fantastic.
And humour seems to break down a lot of barriers as well.
I think as long as you can laugh at yourself, that is absolutely fine. I think there's a fine line of laughing with people and laughing at people, and I think you have to kind of be sensitive. Think before you speak. And I think it comes down to people's intentions as well. Somebody may say something that they think is funny, but they didn't mean it to be offensive, and then some people want to be offensive and funny at the same time. So I think you have to kind of learn who is with you and who is against you, and you learn pretty quick. If you walk into a room and someone pats you on the head, you kind of think, do you know what, you're not my kind of person. It's like, yeah.
Does that happen much?
Oh God, yeah. I can't bear it. One of my pet peeves is being patted on the head, and actually you'll find in supermarkets, in a queue, waiting to queue up to go to the cash machine. I've had so many people just physically push me out the way because they think I'm a child. I've actually had my card in the cash machine and I've been pushed out the way and it's usually an older generation, I'm afraid to say, because they are so dismissive of children. And actually I find that even sadder, the fact that we, an older generation, are that dismissive of the younger generation, the children. They again are part of society. They are the future generation. They're going to be changing your bed when you're incontinent. So respect works both ways. So yeah, being manhandled as well in a supermarket is like, don't touch me. But they get a shock. I do speak my mind. I do say my piece. So, I do.
That comes as a shock as well.
It does, and a lot of them are apologetic, and that's fine, and they're embarrassed. But they shouldn't do it in the first place. Even if I was a child, you shouldn't be doing that to a child. Just show them the courtesy that you expect to be shown. Oh, excuse me, would you mind getting out the way, please? That kind of thing. And you wouldn't have an 8-year-old at a cash machine anyway. So I just find it crazy.
Has there ever been anything in a script you've not been happy with? Pertaining to the height?
If there has, I can't remember anything that stands out, but I'm sure there has been, and things have been altered, things have been tailored. I've had scripts as well from films and things like that, and a lot of people are very sensitive now to offending the little people community, which I think is good. And usually we are asked, is there anything that you want changing? Is there anything that you find offensive? My biggest bugbearer is when people get offended on my behalf. It's like, no, if I'm not offended, then in my opinion, it's okay. And that does happen quite a lot. I think some people are oversensitive. I think it's entertainment. I think you have to be careful not to go too far down the line of political correctness, because otherwise, what are we going to have? What is there going to be, in a Panto script? It is all tongue-in-cheek. It's all meant in good jest. And I think let's just, loosen up. Let's have a laugh. We're all in it together. It's not, great times at the moment, with Brexit and all this other garbage that's going on. And, we just need a bit of escapism. So I think, just crack on and, live and let live.
Have a giggle.
Yeah, that's what it's about, isn't it?
All get together.
Yeah.
When you do... let's just try and change... just trying to think of the wording. When you are together then with the 7...
Yeah.
What's that like then as a community where you're sort of thrown together with
it's an absolute hoot. I'm not going to lie, it's crazy, and you can probably tell from the documentary. And bearing in mind that was quite a long time ago, I was a lot younger then and a lot more wilder then. But yeah, we just have a good old laugh. And that's what Panto's for. And you do become a family, not just the 7, the whole company. You have to, it's Christmas time. We are there to entertain the people, but it's our Christmas as well, and we only get one day off, which is Christmas Day. So we have to make the most of it and enjoy it. And we're all usually away from our families. We don't get to see our family over the festive season. You know, some of the runs go on forever. So yeah, you do become a family, and you know, you have quizzes, and there's lots of traditional things that happen backstage. You know, you have Secret Santa like anyone else, but yeah, you may have a celebrity guest that comes to give you presents. You know, it is a family, and you know, you have Prosecco Club and you know, Port Club, you know, whatever. You make it, you know, as interesting as possible. You spend a lot of time together as well, so you have to get on. You know, you're in the you know, people think, oh, you're only doing 2 shows a day, it's only 2 hours per show or whatever. Actually, no, you're in at the theatre in the morning, you know, getting prepped, getting ready, and then, you know, as soon as the show's done at the end of the day, you have to de-rig, get your makeup off, and then you go to stage door, you know, maybe sign some autographs, and then you've got to wind down. And for me personally, the winding down, it takes forever. I can't just go home and have a cup of tea and switch off. I am absolutely wired and buzzed. So I will have a drink, you know, and I will chill out at home, and then it all starts again the next day. It's manic. It's crazy, but I love it. I've become a night owl, so my routine is just, you know, people will think you're a bit of a lazy person, but you know, I don't get up till 11 o'clock in the morning, you know, sometimes 12, but then you're not going to bed, you know, till 12, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, because by the time you've wound down, you know, you can actually sleep then.
How many Pantos has it been then for you?
Oh my goodness me, I think, oh gosh.
Because I've been told they all sort of blur.
Yeah, they all blur into one. So I think, 23. I think I've done, because I've done Easter Pantos as well. I think I've probably done about 15. Yeah, 15 Pantos in total.
Any 3 show days that you've had?
Oh my God, yes. They are the worst in the world. And actually Canterbury's schedule is the most grueling schedule I've ever done in my life. 15 shows a week. You do 2-3 show days a week, every week for the whole run. And you don't know if you're coming or going. And it's not just that either. It's, so you do your 3 show days, so you'll finish the show, but then there'll be a 10:30 show the next morning. So you don't actually have time to recover, and you don't know if you're coming or going. It's absolutely bonkers. But the worst is for the dames. The dames have the worst the worst deal, you know, with all those costume changes. I've done it once, you know, playing Ugly Sisters, and you literally, you know, we did 1 3-show day, and that was just the worst for me. You come off, you stand there, put your arms out, you know, dresses just rip clothes off, put clothes on, and push you back on again, and hopefully they remind you of what scene you're doing, you know, when you go on, because everything just blurs into one. And yeah, I've seen people go on and start a scene that, you know, they've already done, or they'll start a scene that's not yet been done, and it's like, it's comical. The audience loved that. Yeah, so yeah, I had 16 costume changes when I played Ugly Sister. So 16 times 3, you can imagine, you go stir crazy. You know, it's hilarious.
So you can't wind down during that period when it's 3 show days?
No. No. I think it's just because you have to be switched on all the time. I think it's dangerous to kind of, you know, come down. And for me anyway, it takes forever to wind down. The only time I do is if I'm feeling actually exhausted and tired. you know, if I can sleep between shows, I will kind of rest my eyes. You know, that is one of the key things that I've learned, is you do have to look after yourself. You know, it's like being an athlete. You know, you've got to be switched on. You know, mentally you've got to be there, and physically you've got to look after yourself as well, vocally, you know. So yeah, you really do have to look after yourself.
Physically, then, you'll have to excuse my ignorance for this,
fine.
but physically being a little person, does it have more of a toll on the body?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's kind of an obvious an obvious thing to see, really. You know, for instance, me walking, you know, my stride is probably half your stride.
I'm 6 miles.
So, you know, for every step you take, I take 2. So, you know, things like that. Stairs, you know, the rise of a stair, you know, for me, you know, I have to really stretch to kind of go up and down stairs. And little people, not all, so I'm not speaking for the whole little people community, but for me, you know, there are other health issues. You know, we have spinal problems, most of us, and joint problems. So yeah, and other medical issues. Don't want to scare anybody, so I'm not going to say. I am employable, it's fine. I'm not a liability, honest. So yeah, you know, obviously we do have some problems, but you'll find a lot of, you know, directors will make sure that you're looked after. They won't make you do things that you're uncomfortable with doing. Choreographers are very good, you know, and I think the best thing as well, and this is a thing that I've learned with age, is learning to say no. You know, I've done things in the past, not just in theatre, but predominantly in the film industry, just because you want to be a people pleaser, you do things that actually in hindsight you think that was stupid. Why on earth did I do that? You know, doing 15 takes of falling flat on your backside with no padding. You know, it's like, that's just stupid. You know, so I think learning to say no and looking after your body is key. But I think when you're young, you know, you're trying to make a name for yourself. You're trying to get noticed.
As well.
Yeah. So you kind of, you know, you do as you're told. You know, you're just a small cog in a big kind of machine, and you know, if you feel at the time, if you don't do it, that's it. You're going to go on this black list, and you're never going to work again.
Do you think that may have scared, because the obvious, as you said, the health implications, employing little people sometimes? Do you think that's why some productions do employ either children or adults on their knees? How does that as well make you feel as part of a community that's underrepresented?
So I think companies, if they're big companies or companies that have a budget, and if they can afford, first of all, for me, it's not about money. Okay, yes, money is good, it pays the bills, but it's about the creative element as well. So for me, it's not always about the money. However, I think the problem with some companies probably having a misguided view of little people and their talents comes from maybe hiring a bad bunch, dare I say. We all know that people do it for the money. You know, they'll be an accountant throughout the year, or they'll, you know, be an architect. I know a small person who's an architect. Probably shouldn't name them. And they just do it because they can, and it's easy money for them. You know, they're not professionally trained. They don't really have a desire to be in industry. They do it just to get autographs. You know, they're glory hunters or whatever. So they don't do it for the right reasons. They're not passionate about the arts. They have no interest. They have no training. Now, if I was a professional company and I was hiring a leading artist, would I just take them without auditioning? No. But they do hire 7 little people without auditioning people. So I think that is one of the biggest problems, is that a production company don't know who they're getting, They don't know what they're capable of until they turn up in that rehearsal room. A lot of little people don't know what character they're playing until they turn up. And I've done one of the 7 for a production company, and I've turned up not knowing who I'm going to be playing. I know I'm fully capable. I wasn't auditioned, and I literally read the lines on the day for all the parts and was assigned the part on the first day of rehearsals. Now, to me, that isn't how the industry works. You know, you audition, if you're good enough, you get the role. And unfortunately, that doesn't happen for the 7. However, I did audition for the London Palladium, and I think that is the best thing that they could have done, because then you get a good, talented bunch of 7 dwarfs.
How does it make you feel though when you see, dare I say, adults on their knees performing, and they're still billed as 7 dwarfs?
I kind of think it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? You know, in one sense, I kind of understand, because I think, again, there's a bit of a reputation for little people not being able to perform, or you know, they're there just to make up numbers and walk on and walk off. And I think that's because some little people that are supplied just can't deliver. And that's not necessarily their fault. That's down to maybe their management, or the fact that, yeah, they just do it for a bit of extra cash at Christmas. So I don't think it's always the production's fault. I think also you have to take into account their budget. You know, can they afford, 7 people? But as I said, for me, it's not always about the money. You know, I could work for a small independent production company that doesn't have the biggest budget, and as long as the show was good and they had a good work ethic and they were good to their, actors, and the script was good, that is a selling point to me as much as, the money.
It doesn't frustrate you though when you see children in roles that could be yours?
Not really, because I don't think there's any point in kind of getting angst about it. At the end of the day, it's their missed opportunity. They clearly haven't done any research to see if there are any talented little people out there. So yeah, it doesn't kind of faze me. I do remember once I went for an audition. I laugh about it now, not at the time. I went for an audition for The Wizard of Oz to play one of the Munchkins. Again, typecasting, but I thought, great, I could be part of a musical show. It was in Manchester. So I travelled there, started my career, cost me a fortune to get there, not much money, had to, do a bit of sofa surfing and things like that, but you do it. And I got there, and I was the only little person there, and there was loads of kids. And I just thought, what's going on here? And they didn't even ask me to audition. They didn't want me to audition. They basically just wanted me to go on stage with the kids to be a chaperone. And I just thought, okay, I'm out of this. Thank you. Goodbye. And things like that are very frustrating. One, it costs money. Every audition that I have to go to costs a lot of money. Normally in London, or, you have to pay for accommodation and things like that. And you don't get that back, So, you'll find a lot of things are wasted time, but you learn, again, as you go through your career, you learn what questions to ask before you go, and you kind of find out, how good is this? Is it too good to be true? That kind of thing. So yeah, I've learned to, again, not kind of believe everything that's said.
When you're part of the 7, has there ever been times where some of the 7 aren't quite up to scratch, and what do you do about that?
Now, Oh, I have to be careful here. So, as I said, there are, as little people, we have problems, and as people get older, the same with anybody, these problems get worse. And mobility can be an issue for some people, and things like that. But just because certain people have mobility issues doesn't mean that they're not good. So, you know, a lot of people that I have worked with are good at what they do, but not necessarily the most active. But it is frustrating when you are an active person and you want choreography, you know, you want a dance routine, you want to be part of it, and then just to be put to a side, you know, doing step together, because you have to work to the strengths of the seven, and it's usually to the strengths of the weakest member. And yes, it is highly frustrating, and it happens quite regularly. So yeah, it is frustrating.
What's been then your favourite standout moment of performing?
Oh, it's got to be the London Palladium, without a shadow of a doubt. As I said, you know, being, you know, coming out of college and get my agent, being naive, oh yeah, I can take on the world, I'm going to be this, I'm going to be that. Never did I, you know, I've been very lucky, I have to say as well. You know, I've done some fantastic films, I've had a nice steady stream of work. I mean, my career went in a completely different direction. I didn't even want to be in the film industry. It never even crossed my mind. I just thought, I'm going to be in the theatre, you know, it's going to be a full-time job. How wrong was I? But I never, I told myself as well that the West End wasn't the be-all and end-all, you know, for my career, because deep in my heart, I felt I would never ever get a chance to be in the West End, ever. You know, there's no roles out there for little people, and it just wasn't going to happen. So I taught myself that it wasn't a big deal. So I wasn't disappointed about that fact. And then, obviously, I got a call to go and audition for a show, and I wasn't told what it was or where it was. So I go to the head office of Kudos and meet with Jonathan Kiley and Michael Harrison, and read a script. And it was actually reading the part of Muddles. I got a bit excited. I thought, oh, I'm going to be playing Muddles. No, it was one of the seven, which is fine, because it was at the Palladium. And so I read the script, and the contract came through signed, and I was at the Palladium. And then just to see, well, first of all, working with Michael Harrison, you know, absolute genius, creative, you know, just where it comes from, you just can't fathom it. So kind of sitting in the Palladium during kind of I mean, first of all, the rehearsals were amazing, you know, to see all the special acrobats and things like that, and you can't envisage how it's going to work. And you see pictures on the wall of the set and the costumes, and you know, you see a train and you think, oh my God, we're coming on stage on a train, you know, what an entrance. And I was very lucky that I had a song commissioned for me as well, so I got to sing a song. So my pinnacle moment was standing in the wing every show, and it's where Sir Bruce used to walk on from, and it's the tiniest wing, and I used to stand there and literally pinch myself thinking, oh my God. And there's Gary Wilmot singing a song, and I'm like, I get to run on this stage, just me and him, and sing with him every single show. And I just thought, how lucky am I? And you know, you take your curtain call, and you're literally welling up, you're thinking, I am stood on the greatest stage in the world. You know, the Palladium is just an iconic theatre, and to be under stage, in the wings, in the dressing rooms, to experience the whole theatre, is just incredible. And Sir Bruce is actually, his ashes are under the stage, in the wall, and there's a blue plaque there. So yeah, to be standing on the stage with Sir Bruce, and he's centre stage. They put him centre stage, and he will forever be centre stage of the Palladium. So yeah, to have been on that stage is just fantastic.
The career highlight.
Absolutely. And the show was fantastic as well. I mean, it was a phenomenal show. Visually, the visual effects were fantastic. This massive dragon, flying deer, it's just amazing.
And you even got as well, I can't remember exactly the line, but where everybody, it was part of the song, wasn't it? Where you literally brought the house to tears every performance.
Yeah, and that's down to the song, I know they're not using the song again. They're commissioning a new song. I'm fortunate enough to be doing the show again. So, obviously not at the Palladium. Second best, Birmingham Hip. So, yeah, absolutely. So they're commissioning a new song. But, yeah, the song was just so emotional. And, again, it's connecting with the lyric, and hopefully I connected with the audience, and yeah.
You have them in the palm of your hands.
Yeah. To be honest with you, I do tend to make a lot of grown men cry. When I was fortunate enough I did quite a stint for Evolution, and he wrote me a song. I've been very lucky that I have been utilised. And he did write a song as well, and I used to have people at the stage door, grown men, saying, "You've made me cry again." A friend of mine's dad, Phil Gallagher's dad, used to come and see the show, and I think he'd seen the show about 11 times over the 3 years, and he says, "You still make me cry." So yeah, that's a compliment. It shows that hopefully I'm doing something right.
Would you have ever dreamed of this when you were that child back in school?
Never in a million years would I have thought I would have been at the Palladium, ever.
And how does that compare to being up on the silver screen? Because you've had quite the varied film career as well.
I have. It's different because the film industry wasn't on my radar. Sounds strange. A lot of people say, "Oh my God, you work with so many stars. Oh my God." For me, it's work. I'm very lucky. I always say I'm very fortunate. I'm very lucky, and I don't take it for granted at all. Anybody in this industry, you have your ups and your downs. I've been very fortunate to have been, a nice steady stream of work. But the film industry, it is nice to see your name in a credit, I have to say, and to have been a part of some incredible films, some big franchises as well. It is incredible. There's a lot of politics involved, but we won't go into that.
What's been your favourite film then?
Favourite film? Favourite film for me was Robot Overlords, which was a low budget. And when I say low budget, and people say, "Oh, so what was the budget?" It's like 26 million. So that's a low budget. And just because it was low budget, it was a nice knit family. It wasn't a team of 200-300 people. It was, a really select crew. The director was amazing, and the producers and the writer, Mark Stay, was incredible. And what was nice was a lot of films that I do, I'm either in prosthetics, or I'm in a blue suit or a green suit, doing visual effects or character work or creature work, which is integral, but you're not featured, as in it's not your face. So to do Robot Overlords, it was my face. They did dub my voice. I had to do lip sync, actually. They played the dialogue whilst filming, and I had to lip sync to it. So that was quite an interesting kind of format, and to create the character was a nice kind of organic kind of process to play a robot. You know, it's not something you do every day. And I remember my first day on set, I actually had about 2 pages of dialogue to do. And it's quite petrifying. You know, you're stood there, you've got cameras on you, you know, that old chestnut time is money kind of thing, you know, don't cock it up. But they made you feel so at ease. And I remember we was filming in a school in Ireland. It was a disused school, and there was lots of mouse mats lying about. And I kind of felt that my walk wasn't quite right. It wasn't like robotic enough, and I felt like, oh, we could do with some kind of knee braces, or, you know, just to kind of, you know, encourage the brain to think, oh, don't walk like a human, you know. So I said to my wardrobe lady, my costume lady, I want to make some kind of brace for my knees. So we were there, and we're cutting up mouse mats and kind of taping them around my legs to kind of limit my movement. So yeah, things like that are quite interesting, and you have to focus on your breathing. You know, as a robot, robots don't breathe. So when I was lip syncing, I did a couple of takes where I was actually vocalizing. So when you actually vocalize, you're breathing. You know, you're taking breath, and actually that wasn't working because the way that it was filmed, there was filming in high speed. It's very technical. I don't understand how it all works, but basically they could tell that my breath, it was quite breathy. So I ended up not vocalizing, trying to hold my breath and just mouthing the words, and it seemed to work. And I also got to work with Sir Ben Kingsley, who is the most incredible guy. He's the nicest person ever. There's a lot of people, or a lot of articles, a lot of people, you know, I've had reports say, oh, I've heard he's not very nice. And it's like, well, you don't know the truth then. And a lot of people go from hearsay, or, you know, Chinese whispers, or something that's gone through the grapevine. And usually a lot of it is a load of old cobblers. You know, I've had people say, oh, that person's horrible to work for. You go and work with them, and they're the nicest people ever. So don't always believe what you're told either. So yeah, I digress there, but Robot Overlords, yeah, best film that I worked on.
Anything that you'd still like to do pantomime-wise?
Yes, but I think I'm getting a bit too old now. My dream role has always been Peter Pan, and I said this for many, many years. However, I think the reason why is because I just want to fly. I just want to be on a wire and fly. I've done it in film. I've done some stunts before in film, and I've, you know, done a 30-foot drop, you know, on a wire. It's fun. It's great fun. But yeah, I would just love to be on a harness, a wire. So I guess any character that flies, really. I mean, could I be a fairy? Why not? Tinkerbell. Tinkerbelly. I don't know. I know it's been done before.
Have a word with the twins. I'm sure they'd love to fly.
I know. So, yeah, I think Peter Pan would be a great role. For me, obviously, I'd love to do Ugly Sisters again. And I'd like to start kind of developing that as an act and progress and try and, you know, get away from playing the Seven Dwarfs. You know, as much as it's fun, you know, there's only so much you can do, you know, playing one of the seven.
Have you ever thought about getting into producing or directing?
I have, actually. I have an idea for a script. So obviously I won't tell you because it may get,
my community,
so we may copy it. But I don't know if it would work. Probably not.
Oh, they would.
We all know plagiarism goes on, that's for sure. It's like, who done it first? I have, actually. Directing is something that I'd love to kind of get into. It's because I've never done it before. Am I confident enough to do it? And actually, I think with anything, you just got to do it. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. If it works, it works, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. I've often thought, do I, approach somebody and say, look, can I shadow you? Can I learn the ropes that way? So I'm more than capable. I know I am. I've got a very creative brain, but it's just whether, I can portray, convey that and actually make it come to life. But yeah, it's definitely something I've thought about. And especially as I'm getting older, a slight career change, I have thought about producing, maybe in the TV realms or the theatre realms, but you have to start again. It's very difficult. I've been very lucky, as I've said, I'm fairly established. And, do I want to go and be a runner, on a film set? Probably not. So, but if I have, you do what you have to do. But I feel that, I've earned my stripes a little bit. And I think you've got to get to a point where you got to know your worth. I'm not saying anything's things are beneath me at all. I do anything, as I've said, within reason. And so yeah, producing perhaps and directing. Yeah, I'd quite enjoy that. I think I think I'd have to be within the creative realms, the creative world, definitely.
If you could go back and talk to your sort of 6-7-year-old self,
yeah,
what advice would you give yourself, and also what things would you have done differently?
Oh gosh, I would say be confident. Be confident in everything that you do and be yourself. If you go into an audition room and you put on a persona that you're something, it's natural. People do it, It's like the telephone voice. Someone phones and you put on a telephone voice. You have to be yourself, because people either like you or they don't. And that's another thing as well. With the industry, it's not necessarily all about talent. It's what you know and who you know. And yeah, it's a business as well. It's not all fun and games. There's a business side to it, networking and things like that. So I would say just be yourself and let your personality shine through. And if people like you, then that's a bonus.
What would you have done differently then?
Gosh, what would I have done differently? I don't know if I would have done anything differently, apart from probably I think believe in yourself, the confidence thing. It's that, hindsight's a wonderful thing. If I know, what's the saying? If I know what I know now back then, then, it would have been a game changer. But then again, I'm a true believer things happen for a reason anyway. If my personality was slightly different then, I probably wouldn't have got some of the jobs that I got, because, yeah, you are who you are. And as you get older, you develop as a person. As you get older, you become more confident. And you believe in yourself and trust in yourself. I tell you one thing that I do need to learn is sometimes to say no. I am a kind of say yes to everything, and I think that's just a natural thing for any performer, because you don't know when your next paycheck's going to come. So you've got to take what you can when you can. And I guess that's the same for anybody that's freelance in any industry. It's all the same. You just gotta get the next gig to pay the next bill, kind of thing. So but I don't think I've made any bad choices, any bad decisions. Everything's, I feel, has happened for a reason and gone in the right direction, I hope.
Has there ever been any bad moments in your career or in pantomime?
Trying to think.
Or anything you've not enjoyed as much? Something that's been grueling. I know you said about the 3-show days where...
Yeah, but that's still good fun. As much as, everybody has a bit of a grumble and a bit of a moan. Oh my God, this is exhausting. I can't do this. Who on earth decided to do this? That kind of thing. But we all laugh and joke about it because we wouldn't do anything else. We love it. You know, it's stupid. You know, it's like, you know, you say, oh gosh, don't look at me. No, seriously, look at me. You know, it's like, we're kidding ourselves. We love what we do. And I wouldn't change what I do for the world. You know, to be paid to entertain is just incredible. I love it.
The whole dressing up thing as well.
Oh, dressing up's just amazing. You know, and I think that's where a lot of it stems from as well as a child. You know, dressing up. You know, I used to wear cowboy boots, my dad's cowboy boots. I don't know why my dad had cowboy boots, to be fair. But I used to wear my dad's cowboy boots. I must ask him. And yeah, just dressing up and creating characters and having a giggle. You know, karaoke machine. You know, it's fun. And yeah, I guess life's too serious. You know, we need to just let loose.
Has being on stage ever caused any problems, or have you ever had any sort of pantomime mishaps over the years?
Yes, I have. I've had those that are funny, you know, where the audience are part of it and, you know, it's done intentionally to get a laugh. But I've had some that are out of my control. And quite scary, and I won't name locations or years or anything like that, but I have been with members who are under the influence of alcohol, and that is very blatant to you on stage as a performer. I don't think that the audience knew, but yes, there was a lot of ad-lib, and the scene was going on and on and on and on, and I didn't know where it was going, and I was playing the lead, Dwarf, and I thought, I've got to take control of this situation. I've got to try and save this and bring it back. And, you know, this is why you learn on the job. You are constantly learning. You know, you can't learn that, you know, in a classroom. You've got to think on your feet, and you just got to deal with the situation. And that was quite a hair-raising moment. And I remember one other thing that happened to me, and it's the only time it's ever happened. I suffer with nerves quite a bit. But once I'm on, it's fine. But this one particular show, and it was a press night, and we put so much pressure on ourselves, it's ridiculous. You know, you've done the show before, you know it, you know, it's fine. But press night is the night that you want it to be at its best. You want it all to be at its best, but, you know, that's when you have the press in and they write about you and etc. And I remember this one night, and, you know, we come on and I'm stood there, and then I felt like I'd blacked out. And I didn't know what was didn't know what was coming out my mouth. It's like I was having this out-of-body experience. It was so surreal. Things were coming out my mouth, and then it was like someone clicked their fingers, and I was back in the room. And I couldn't remember what I said, what I'd done, but the scene was carrying on, and I just I felt like I just blundered through it. And I came off, and I was like, what did I say? What did I do? And it was like, you just did the scene as normal. And to this day, I can't remember it. I just completely backed out, but it happened. And that's the only time it's ever happened. And I was trembling, my knees were shaking, and it's the worst I've ever been. And touch wood, it's never happened again.
Do you find then, when you have had unprofessional dwarves with you, that you do have to take the lead? You literally use that character that you play, and you are sort of rallying up the troops as well.
Yeah, I don't think it's the character for me now. I've learned that, you know, again, it comes with experience. And, you know, I'm fortunate that I've had, you know, a decent career, and I have had training as well. And when I do Panto, it's usually with newbies, so they've never done Panto before. So you have to kind of take control, you know, otherwise, you know what it's like. I'm sure you've been in the audience and sat watching something, and there's just been this eggy pause where you can drive a bus straight through something, and it's like, oh, whose line is it then? Is someone going to say something? You know, it's like, and you have to take control. You know, I've been in situations where it's been a newbie and you've been on stage and like, it's your line. It's funny. It is quite funny, but that's not really taking control, is it? That's not moving it along. So, yeah, I mean, this year I think I'm the oldest out of the 7, which is quite scary. I remember when I was the youngest. It gets scary. The years are going on and on and on. And yeah, I'll be known as, you know, the grandpa of the group soon.
Right, and it comes to the very last question. I hope you're prepared. It's the dream pantomime. You can be in it, you can be in the audience watching it, the cast can be alive or no longer with us.
Oh gosh.
And you can choose where you would like the production as well.
Oh my goodness me. That is a curveball question. I've not even ever thought about that. I haven't seen a lot of pantos, to be fair, because I'm always in one. So it's quite difficult with the schedule to get and see one. Dream panto. I guess it would have to be Peter Pan. I'd have to be in it. I think I'd have to be Peter Pan, obviously. And cast-wise, let me think. This is difficult, isn't it?
That's why I always ask people it.
This is a tough one.
And this can be people that you've never worked with or have worked with.
Do you know who I would love to work with? Paul O'Grady. I'd adore to work with him.
He'd make a great Hook.
Yeah, Captain Hook. I think, yeah, Paul O'Grady. Gosh, who else would I like to work with? Oh gosh.
You need your Tinkerbell.
Tinkerbell. See, I've got a good friend who plays a very good Tinkerbell, Jo Morris. She's a little person and she does a fantastic job and I love her character. So yeah, probably Jo Morris. But kind of to work with, I could imagine kind of Dame Judi Dench in a panto.
Mrs. Darling.
Mrs. Darling, yeah. That'd be quite fantastic, wouldn't it?
What about your Smee, your comical Smee?
Smee.
If you're going to go down that comical route, it might be a serious Peter Pan.
No, because you've got Hook. Although, if Paul O'Grady was Hook, you'd have to make it comedy, wouldn't you? You'd have to.
I'd like to see him actually perform straight acting.
Yeah. Let me think. Smee. Oh my, you've proper thrown a spanner in the works here. I'm trying to think. Goodness.
Cut out all the pauses as well.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that.
Gosh. I'm just trying to think. I think it'd be great to have a proper A-lister. Do you know what I mean? People who you think they wouldn't do panto. You know, you couldn't imagine Judi Dench doing panto, could you? But it'd be great to see her.
I think she'd enjoy it.
Yeah, oh gosh. I think anybody would enjoy it.
So Ian McKellen enjoys it.
Yes. But you wouldn't expect him to do it, would you?
No.
Goodness me. Right, come on, Craig, think. Think.
Because Smee's very comical, isn't he?
Yeah.
You need somebody...
I think you need someone physical. I think it'd be a very physical... Oh my. I can't think of anyone now. My mind has gone completely blank.
This is going to be an edit and half of that.
It is, isn't it? Oh, let me think. See, it's got to be right cast, doesn't it? Do you know who I did love working with? Paul Zerdin. He is such a nice guy. I think he'd be quite good, actually.
He'd be your Smee.
Yeah, but with a sidekick, obviously. One of his puppets. Although we can't call... Yeah, Sam the puppet. I actually gave Sam a card. How sad am I? An opening night card to Sam. Sam gets more fan mail, I think.
Paul won't be happy about that.
No.
And where would you want your production?
See, I love a small theatre. I love the big theatres, fantastic. But because of my home, my roots, I think it'd have to be the Theatre Royal in Lincoln.
Wonderful.
Nice little theatre there.
Well, Craig, thank you so much for taking
Thank
part in
you.
the podcast.
Thank you.